Now, Judge Koen has recused himself from former President Jacob Zuma's corruption trial. He says there may be reasonable apprehension of bias in how the case has been treated. The judge says it is in the interest of justice that he withdraws from the matter. eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathaih is watching this case for us, and he joins us now live from the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Dasen, just explain to us what the judge meant when he says there is reasonable apprehension for bias.
And he was quite specific in that, because he says that the law states that there doesn't have to be outward bias necessarily. Even just that apprehension of bias is enough for a judicial officer to recuse himself. And it was certainly heading in this way if you kind of follow the narrative and the trajectory of how the case has been flowing, and the fact that he has said previously that he did make what he called strong comments, and that was in his judgment in relation to the special plea that was in 2021, where Zuma's legal team had called for the removal of the lead prosecutor, Advocate Billy Downer. And he says that because of those comments that he made, it could be seen that he was taking a certain position when it came to the trial, because it could almost be seen as him siding with the lead prosecutor in this matter. And although he insists that he was not biased and is not biased, nevertheless, he did look at the possibility of how Zuma's legal team may view his comments and how the trial then unfolds. But let's listen to what he had to say when he read out his summary judgment. He didn't read out the 47-page full judgment, he just read out the summary. And in that, he explains the reasons why he decided to come to this decision and recuse himself.
I have come to the conclusion, and it was not an easy decision, that I have to recuse myself from the trial. It is what the sound administration of justice, the requirements of the Constitution, and my conscience dictate. The integrity of the judicial process must be protected against any reasonable taint of suspicion, so that the public and litigants may have the highest confidence in the integrity and fairness of our courts. The trial will therefore have to continue before another judge.
But this trial can't continue until Part B of, the application by Ramaphosa is completed when it comes to the private prosecution. Then there's also the actual private prosecution of Advocate Billy Downer and journalist Karen Moore. So it's a lot of legs in this trial, isn't it, Dasen?
There's a lot happening on the periphery of the main trial. Even just the matters that we are dealing with right now, even this has got nothing technically to do with the main case, and that's the arms deal corruption. All of this is just the pre-trial litigation that we're talking about, as well as those private prosecution matters that you're also referring to. I mean, that was just another angle that Zuma's legal team has been taking in order to ensure that they don't have Billy Downer here as the lead prosecutor. In that particular matter that you're talking about, that's the alleged contravention of the NPA Act that they're referring to there, where Billy Downer had supplied the so-called medical records of the former president to a journalist. And that was also something that came up in Pete Koen's judgment today. He said that although that may be seen as an irregularity, he still insisted that it didn't mean that Downer did not have title to prosecute. And he stood by that, and he obviously stands by his initial judgment, which says that, where he says that there was no merit in the grounds of complaint provided by Zuma's legal team. So that matter is something that he elaborated on, saying that because that private prosecution is ongoing, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's any kind of vendetta that is being carried out by Downer. Let's listen to what Pete Koen had to say about that.
The mere fact that a private prosecution is being pursued against the prosecutor in a pending trial by the person being prosecuted is a matter of considerable concern, and might even strongly suggest that he should be removed as a prosecutor. But it is not per se, in my respectful view, necessarily conclusive of the issue, for reasons which I need not dwell on further in the summary. It does not mean that if there's a private prosecution that the prosecutor is necessarily involved in a personal crusade against the accused and must therefore, in all instances without qualification, be disqualified from continuing as prosecutor. There must be a weighing up of all the relevant considerations.
All right, senior reporter Dasen Thathaih live for us outside the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Let's leave it there for now. All right, still to come on all angles. We know every week the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, pens a letter to South Africans. This time, he has a very different tone when it comes to Eskom and what he said about the NERSA tariff increase last week. Stay tuned to find out what exactly he said.